Welcome back to TechQuest TV. This is Kelly Lewis. I'm President and CEO of TechQuest Pennsylvania. We are having a fantabulous show here on TechQuest TV, and we are batting cleanup with Kris Kirk. She is the owner of Mentors Consulting and Training based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And the one interesting, Kris, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kelly. Good to be here.
Let me not be polite here. Welcome to the show. This is TechQuest TV. And you've already laid it out. You are a diehard Pittsburgh Steelers fan.
Absolutely.
Season ticket holder.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Grew up in it.
Yep. Left town for about 12 years after college, but came back and was fortunate enough to get season tickets, and so it's a great place to be.
Well, I won't talk too much football because, as everybody knows in Pennsylvania, Steeler fans, man, woman, or child, know more about football than any other fan.
I would agree.
Every ranking shows it, and it's the football capital of the world. And
yeah, it's
even
good.
though I'm kind of not really a Steelers fan.
You're not?
I'm a Penn State fan, that's all. I
So
live and breathe the Penn State football. And,
you follow college ball then more than pro ball?
Yeah, we'll let the Steelers do their thing, right?
Yeah.
They're having some challenges, though. Quarterback here. What's
They
going
are.
on?
Bad subject. Yeah, bad subject, but we seem to be holding our own, and we'll see what happens, as the season goes on.
Now tell us about your company.
My company, I started it in 1994. And when we started it, we had an angel investor, so it was a wonderful place to be. And the thought process at that time was we were looking at Microsoft launching Windows 95 a year from where we were at that time. Plus, workforces were going to continue to use technology in ways that back in 1995 we only imagined. And so we knew that workforces would eventually, if you think about it, Kelly, there are very few jobs out there now that some type of technology is not used, whether it be a handheld, the trucking industry has laptops, the police industry have laptops, and, a lot of handhelds. So, when we started, we decided to follow workforces and see how technology changes their day-to-day workflows.
So now you're at the table, but you've surfed upstream and you're a total cutting edge on the healthcare side. Tell us a little bit about this healthcare transformation.
Well, we've been in healthcare IT for 13 or 14 years and very fortunate to be there. And we did see it trending towards the electronic medical record. And in Pittsburgh, we have talk about teams, we have a great team of people who have been doing the EMR for really 7 years or more. And we're finding as we reach out now and try and grow in that particular industry that a lot of the larger organizations, even some of the prime vendors who are bidding on some of the state, they'll have 4 or 5 years. So it's exciting to be able to sit at the table as a small woman-owned company and say, guys, we've done this. We've watched it happen from beginning to end. We've watched transitions and what is the best way to move workforces. And what's interesting about the Health Information Exchange is we're not just asking physicians to change, we're asking citizens and government, and there seems to be a lot of questions around how we do it. So that's exciting for us to watch, but it also has its challenges. So.
Now, what is an electronic medical record for our viewers here? What is that? What does that mean?
Electronic medical record is just think about when your doctor created a paper file for you. And think about how in doctors' offices, which there are still quite a few, you see on the wall the tabbed, color-coded files. Well, an electronic medical record basically takes all of that data and puts it into individual health records. You would have a health record, I would have a health record, and all of us individuals would be data-based in terms of what has happened to us in doctors' offices or hospitals or eventually long-term anywhere. So that's an electronic medical record, and it really sits at the physician office level and the hospital level.
And why is that important? And aren't there some security concerns with all of that? Or?
That's some of the challenges, and that's why we're excited to be where we are, because physicians now have to think about their business differently. They have to learn about those types of things like security and how to implement technology into their practice. And there's a lot of things that they don't know around that only because they haven't needed to know. We saw the same thing when school teachers had to transition to computers. And that occurred when the internet became commercialized to the web. Back then it was, in fact, we laugh because when we first advertised classes like PowerPoint or Word, we got questions from teachers like, what is PowerPoint? What is Word? And the web, the kids really moved that along, where they were saying, why are we using book encyclopedias when we could go right online? So we saw similar changes, and the teachers, just like the doctors, they had no reason to have computers. They did it all by paper, and it worked very well. But now our governments, and I think it makes sense, and our insurance companies, and the reform that needs to take place in sharing information and having better results and that type of thing is important. But so to watch that workforce move it'll be interesting.
So, any interesting things that you see on the horizon for your company? Any things that are, hot and heavy?
Yes, in fact, we are in several bids at the state now. Without giving too much detail because we are under non-disclosure agreements, but and they do relate to the health IT. And other areas where they are automating, there are bids on the street and just being turned in, like the lottery, for example. We're seeing state governments really having to take old systems that in some cases, many cases, were band-aided together. You'd start a new lottery ticket type thing, and all of a sudden you need a new program or system to take care of that. And now it's going to be moved more to a web-based system, and we're seeing a lot of that, so we're happy to be involved in, how do we get these workforces to move.
Well, I'm excited about the fix.
Yes.
Not FIX, but PHIX, the Pennsylvania Health Information Exchange, and went out to bid, and now everybody's waiting to see what's going to happen on who wins and how that transitions into a new governor.
Right.
And but the potential. I mean, I really believe it's going to be $1 billion industry in Pennsylvania, and we're trying to help incubate it, trying to get it out of the gate, and a lot of education, a lot of not just like education in terms of workforce training, but really just making everyone aware this is going to happen, and this is why it's good, and here's how it's going to work. And that's right where your company's positioned. Absolutely,
yes, and we're excited about that. We are involved in the Pennsylvania Health Information Exchange bid process, and we were lucky enough to be invited into several bids. And now, of course, it's moved along to where, we're waiting to hear who the winner is. And it is going to change a lot of things. And finding TechQuest was just wonderful because, as you said, we tend to be ahead of things. We kind of look out and see where technology is going. And when I heard what you guys were doing and that you really have a statewide push and that you had already had on paper and several of your physicians already have EMR, et cetera, that is more rare than normal. And even if they have the technology, they don't often use it to the extent that they're going to need to in the Health Information Exchange. So yeah, we joke that TechQuest is a diamond in the rough. We're thrilled that you're pushing it, and thrilled that you advocated for it, and you continue to do that.
Well, you've been a great supporter, for sure, and the understanding of that we need to incubate the industry. This is different than incubating a company. We're actually incubating the industry to get all of our companies headed in that direction. It's going to happen. It's going to be big. Yeah. It's a big opportunity, and all along you've been like, you're right there.
Yeah, and educating people. You mentioned too that it's not just educating the physicians. In fact, ironically enough, that is one of our greatest challenges and our best opportunities is the people. But we have to educate the governments and the citizens, and it really needs to, for the adoption to take place in a meaningful way, we have to almost launch it like a commercial organization launches a new product. And I know that sounds silly, but we need commercials. We need the citizens going to their doctors and saying, hey, when are you going to be on that? Because so you need to push up and down, and even the government, and you and I talked about this. Once we get the politicians stumping for this is good, this needs to happen, then I think we'll get a lot more people paying attention to it, and hopefully it'll happen in our lifetime.
Kris, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Kelly. Great to be here.
And our guest was Kris Kirk. She's the owner of Mentors Consulting and Training out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She's a diehard Steelers fan. And we had a great show here on TechQuest TV. I want to thank you for joining us. We'll be back next month for another episode of TechQuest TV.